Okay, so this is Project 4, Phase 3 of my Unreal level that I'm working on. This one was all about trying to add in AI and ways for our character to actually be killed and live. So we added in a few characters here, and we'll get into how I made them work in a bit, because it's a little convoluted and they don't exactly do what they're supposed to yet. But with a little bit more implementing, I can definitely get it to work right, because I'm halfway through with my AI program as it is. And then we go into depth with some kill volumes and some pain volumes so that we can get everything to work. So first thing is first. Let's play through the level and see what everything does now. So first off, we have an actual checkpoint for our start, and if you look, we have this red bar here. This is actually our health. So as we get into the level and we go through, you'll see that we pass through a pain volume, and it actually hurts us. So the first thing is first is we now actually can die, and we go back to our save point, and it tells us the game is saved and what's going on with that, and it reloads everything as it was before. So next part is getting it to save the game and get it to work in a way that it doesn't uh, reset progress. So I have another checkpoint here to show something cool off, because when we die, we end up back over here. But the next cool thing is if I stop playing, this usually stops the entire game and you reset back to your initial point. But if we play, we actually are still back in this same hallway as we were before when we first started. Even though we reset the lights, we have a persistent save that goes throughout the entire game. Even if you close and reopen Unreal, we have an actual save game feature that will completely work. So that was a cool feature I added in. And then all of our original functionality for getting our key over here. So then we do that, and we end up grabbing the key. And if you notice, when we pass through in certain spots, we get our little save game update. So we have a zone save in multiple areas, which is a pretty cool feature that we added in. Then when we go over here, we have our security camera that feeds a live stream, which shows us exactly what's going on in the other room. And we can kind of make out the enemies that are in the room. It's a big room, so it's kind of hard to see. And here's our teleporter. And then we possess our other character. And now here are our enemies. Now, no, they don't react to bullets yet, or sound, but they have basically what is a proximity. So they are basically sentries. So if we get close enough, they then notice us and start following us till they get close enough. And I just have to put in a melee animation. And they follow us persistently until we can break sight with them. So that one we lost sight with, and he goes back to his original post. And that guy will do the same. Since he has now not seen us, he goes back to the way he was. And I will be adding in a kill volume and everything for that as it goes. So we've also seen how we have our damage that's dealt to us, and we die fairly quickly. Now, we also have a kill zone at the end, but I forgot to edit my damage on my pain volume, so that's low enough for my testing purposes here. So let me just lower this, and I'll show you what's going on over on the other side. So now if we play, we go back to our initial checkpoint, which is right here. We teleport into the room. We go to the end of it. Also, our camera over there is animated as well as showing us what is happening. And the health system I actually implemented can be implemented to my enemy AIs very easily, so it's not that bad. And when we follow the world, we eventually get killed and get respawned here. And also, our health bar does progress as it goes down. So that is all the new interesting stuff that was added. And going into what I actually did for everything. First off, our health bar is actually just a vertical progress bar that we ended up going into, I believe it was our first person character. Let me just find this. Yeah, right here. So this was our player health for what we ended up doing with that. So we had to create a widget that's sent to our viewport for our health HUD, and then our health death system is on any damage event, our health gets subtracted from our total that we have, which is based off player full health and our health. And whenever our health reaches less than or equal to 0, we destroy our actor. And then whenever we destroy our actor, we trigger our event destroyed to open our level, which then triggers into our respawn, which I will get into next. So our respawn for our checkpoint, we actually use save systems from our checkpoint save blueprint that we have here with our start location and our last location, which is actually a blueprint class for saves, for save game, as its parent class. And when we go through with what it does, we start on begin overlap with our trigger box with the first person character, and we set our vector 3 location, and we print a string saying, hey, we got that. And then it asks, does our save slot of checkpoint location exist? And if it doesn't, it'll create a save game with our saver subset that we have, and go to cast2 checkpoint save, which is our class over here, and set our location into our save, and then print the game has saved. Or it does the same thing and does it and overlaps with the original thing and says our game is saved. So that's basically how we got our vector 3 location to stay. And then when we go over back here and we open level from our event destroyed, it re-triggers our event begin play over here, which then prints a string of started with calling for our load game slot of where is our last location, and then we teleport our player there. So that's how that ended up working. It ended up working out pretty well. The only thing is you have to offset slightly from where your player begins play. Now for the complicated part, which was our AI. So we ended up doing nothing with our actual character here. The only thing we did was attribute our pawn to AI Brain. And AI Brain takes care of everything that our character does. So if we look over here, in our file that we have for our AI, we actually have quite a few different things here because we have our actual character and then quite a few different things that dictate what our character ends up doing. So going back over here and we go to AI Brain, this is our event begin play. We use Blackboard to allow us to have a behavior tree set up to get everything to work how we want. And with this, we can program in a bunch of different things and have it set different AI patterns, and we can even mix and match with this. So I thought this would be a cool way to learn how to do it because it's very modular, and we can end up making quite a few different things rather quickly once we have the basics down. So we use Blackboard, and we get our set value as a vector, and we run our behavior. That's basically it. And the main things here is we get self for AI Brain to get Blackboard for what we're doing, and we get the controlled pawn get actor location so it knows what's going on. And we have our home location designated as a what is this again? As a name, as a name, because we end up attributing quite a few different things with our own custom variables through this. Now, first thing we have is our our aggro. So what we check for when we're going through this. So we have our AI control that goes in through a branch condition, and we set for event tick, event receive tick, and we cast to our main control, and we set it up so that it follows through to get its location of whatever it is, and scan for whatever it is in a radius of 500. And then for each loop break that it gets, it then returns that value, so then it knows exactly where the player character is. And then through that, we send it out, and we get either our target to follow or our target location. Now, a lot of these are attributed later on through what our variables are over here in our modifiables, because these end up becoming our prominent factors that we have to mess with when we get into our web. But then we have our close enough, which this is basically how close should the character get. So it's going to take the target that's following and what it is, and try to follow to it within a certain acceptable distance, which we set as a float. Then we also have our rapid move to, and this is basically, hey, I see stuff, I will run towards it now. So we have this set up so that it does the same thing up to an AI move to location within an acceptable radius of that thing for how close it wants to get, and then it finishes its executable task. And then all of these code pieces go into our root behavior, where we get our aggro check, and if it checks that it is actually a thing from our target to follow and our target local, it will go to Blackboard base condition, which aborts both, depending, so that we have our variable. And this basically sets up to get within close enough and move towards that object. That's what this basically says. Or we set it up so it has a base condition, target to follow is not set because it didn't find anything, and it goes towards its home local, or this is if it breaks sight. So then we move towards, then we wait, and then we move back home. And that is the main gist of this. Now, the only other thing I wanted to talk about was I was trying to end up using deployables when I was making my respawn system, which I definitely want to try again later in the future if I end up working with events more, because having each event set up so it's a recurrable thing, and you have a bunch of these destroy events, it's going to start getting really cluttered, and it won't be very good when you have to execute things over multiple different channels. The only reason why it works here for our AI is because we're setting everything in through a behavior tree. But if we're not doing this, we're most definitely going to want to be using deployables, because we recall a bunch of these, and this way actually saved on a lot of code overall. It might seem like a lot and a lot of modifiables and things that we need to end up getting right to do, but this ended up saving out a lot of space. So that's where my game is at, and I will see you guys in the next video when we start culminating a little bit more AI and we make this into a completely playable level.